Hi everyone, thanks for joining the Automation Studio Bootcamp series. This is the Automation Deep Dive series session number 8. We have completed quite a few topics in this series about the data view creation, contact cleanup, and many other topics. So we have few other topics as well lined up. We have at least 5 sessions lined up. These sessions are happening every Friday. And if you are new to the Marketing Cloud and want to scale up on the Automation Studio, we have done the Automation Studio fundamental series as well. That was an 8-part series which covered all the fundamentals and basics of the Automation Studio. I'm going to share the links of all the previous sessions, the recordings, and also the link to register to the upcoming sessions. So, and I thank Amanda and Joel for joining today's session and presenting the best practices and all about the Automation Studio, how to make the best use of it. I will turn it over to you, Amanda and Joel. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, JB. All right. Thank you everyone for joining. My usual good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I do see JB has the chat open. Make sure you do use that. We do want everything to be very interactive here. Myself and Joel are presenting basically a session around working smarter, not harder in Automation Studio. So hopefully you've joined a lot of JB's sessions and learned a lot about how to get things done within Automation Studio. We want to take it kind of a step further. So a lot of this is actually going to occur outside of Automation Studio, but no spoilers. Let me do some quick introductions and then we'll dive into the slides a little bit and our actual agenda. JB does have some upcoming sessions, so wanted to have those on screen here in case you haven't joined those. Like she said, she'll link to those in the chat. But I myself, I'm Amanda Turner. I am working at Slalom right now. I am a Salesforce Marketing Cloud Solution Architect and Marketing Champion. And I'm joined here today with me is Joel from Slalom. So he's a colleague of mine. Joel, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. Hi, gang. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I'm kind of the same thing as Amanda. We're both solution architects, so we spend our lives hearing out what our clients need built in Marketing Cloud and integrated to Marketing Cloud from elsewhere. And designing a solution, often getting our fingers very dirty on building those ourselves, or leading a dev team sometimes to partner to bring stuff to life. Been a Slalom 4 years. Love Slalom. Slalom's great, and excited to show our little corner of what we've got in store here. That's not right in Automation Studio, as Amanda said, but it's very adjacent and I'd argue really useful and powers up what you might be doing today in Automation Studio. So we'll just start with that.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and go through the agenda here. We've got quite a bit to cover. So we'll dive right into sort of the overview. Really, the heart of it is getting organized in Marketing Cloud. And then we'll take you through a tool called Visual Studio Code. You'll see it abbreviated a lot. VS just stands for Visual Studio. So that's a Microsoft product. It actually will sit sort of on top of your Marketing Cloud instance and help you, after you've gotten organized, help you actually with sort of like deployments, with actually editing code. There's kind of a wide variety of use cases. We're going to keep it narrow at these 3. Joel will take you through a demo on how to get some things accomplished within Marketing Cloud. We'll round it out with sort of the steps it took to connect. Spoiler, it's like very easy. And any considerations you might need to consider as you perhaps see how this can be applied in your own instance. All right. So like I said, kind of an overview. I really want you to focus on being organized as a very first step to implementing any sort of tool to help you with deployment or just a work tool at all, right? The heart of a Marketing Cloud environment is organization. So a few basics that you can start with if you kind of walked into an org that already exists, or hopefully your own isn't a mess. Come up with a standard naming convention. So we actually have a solution we're going to showcase here that Joel came up with. If you don't want to take his sort of unconventional approach, no offense, Joel, if that sounded, it is very unconventional. So yeah, if you don't want to take that approach, I do have kind of a few tips as you perhaps review your own naming conventions and what you're doing today. I want you to always have some planned deployments and releases, right? You need to be testing, making sure that there's no risks or further impacts. So VS Code will help you kind of get organized in that respect as well. Last one, we're not going to touch on it in these slides, but folder structure is so important. Kind of the way you nest things and tying back to that naming convention is very important in Marketing Cloud. So we'll kind of hit on all of that except for the folder structure, but I did want to give that a nice little call out. All right, so I don't know, like, hopefully everyone has experience with more of a deli counter ticket giver, the big wheel, and you take a number, and sometimes there's like a letter if you're unfortunately dealing with the DMV. So Joel came up with this approach, and I'll hand it over to him to go kind of deeper into this. But basically, he takes an outside spreadsheet and gives a unique identifier to his Marketing Cloud assets. Everything's sort of organized in these core buckets, but from there, there's sort of a number associated with the individualized assets and foldering that goes into it. I'm really excited about this. I was kind of geeking out. It's linked down here, and I can toss the link in the chat. He actually wrote a whole blog about this solution, and I think it's pretty nifty, if I do say so myself. Joel, take it away.
Let's do it. Okay. As Amanda said, yes, it's a little unconventional. And if you're wondering what the hell we're talking about with the deli counter, it's actually, there's a reference in that link, the blog, and Amanda literally does mean that. Like when you go to the grocery store and you go to the deli, there's that big red thing and you pull a ticket. That idea is the linchpin of this. So let me explain. This whole idea of naming convention and organizing is born out of the world Amanda and I, and perhaps you as well, find ourselves in all the time. So like probably stating the obvious here, but we don't just roll in, at Solemn to clients who are like, the corner shoe store or whatever, doing very simple marketing where it's Monday, let's blast out our Monday email and then do it again next week. And we're brought in to like enterprise grade, gigantic systems and programs that are using Marketing Cloud to accomplish any number of different goals. But really the thread throughout most of our clients is there's a lot going on in any one Marketing Cloud account. And I mean that across all of the little studios and apps, depending how old the instance is, just acres of content. And even more so than that often is just like a phalanx of data extensions and then the queries that are populating them a lot of the time. And you have all these journeys, there's all this stuff. And so it gets untenable real quick, especially, this is always the case, if you're not alone. If the Marketing Cloud instance isn't run by just one person, which again, unless you're the corner shoe store, it's not. There's, you've got consultants like us in there. You've got, there's the team, the client team will have 1, 3, 10. It just depends. People in there, each doing their own thing. And the thing that spurred all this, I stumbled into a pretty established hospital account or instance of Marketing Cloud. And it was one of those. There was a ton going on. And I'm guessing if you're on this call, you've encountered this too, where you go into Marketing Cloud and you're trying to find something, or you see something and you want to, what is that? Whether you're in Content Builder or Data Extent, whatever automation studio. This is, and the problem is that as we're doing our work, we're building things on the fly and we're naming them something descriptive. And often, majority of the time, those names end up looking a lot like each other. And so the problem that manifests is like, where the hell is my thing? And that can be needlessly hard to answer. And so this deli counter idea is that, well, when there's a new asset, take a number, just like at the deli. And the idea behind the number, what makes it a pretty apt analogy, I think, is that when you pull that number, that ticket, to get to be, or the DMV to be the next in line, what that number is, 29, whatever, is actually arbitrary and doesn't mean anything. And it doesn't have to in order to accomplish its job, which in the case of a queue is who's next. Well, in the case of Marketing Cloud, you see already on the screen these numbers. These are the folders, as Amanda said, but within each of those little categories that I'll talk about, the buckets of stuff you're doing in Marketing Cloud, whatever the asset may be, again, doesn't matter if we're talking a piece of content, data extension, whatever, that thing should have a distinct identifier that is only for that one thing, or it's itself and its counterpart. For example, when you have a query, it's always inextricably tied to a data extension that is its target. So give those two things, those two assets, the same number. Perhaps there's a journey, that the query populates a data extension, feeds into a journey. Okay, fine, give that the same number. But the point is, what we need to have, organizational nirvana is a bucketing system, which I'll talk about again, and we need something that refers only to that and a companion. And that's the key. That's what the spreadsheet little snippet you're seeing on the screen is. Your Marketing Cloud, no matter what it's doing or how big it is, they all need a companion. So the system by itself just isn't configured in a way to make obvious what some assets, for example, an automation has like a description box, and others do as well. That system's just not powerful enough to indicate I am this and my counterpart assets are those. You need a companion, and the companion is a spreadsheet. And so the idea here is, well, let me just show something first. I think I can steal screen from you. Is that right, Amanda? Or will I have? Okay, let me do that. Let me just. Are y'all seeing Marketing Cloud?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a typical, Marketing Cloud thing. This happens to be our internal Slalom like sandbox instance, but this thing, which obviously is data extensions belonging to our teammate Jeff Karlick in our sandbox. Look at all these things that are, and this is tiny. There's only 11 of them in here. Some accounts have thousands. All these things look similar. And if you're flying through your workflow, it's like, did I need the one that ends in requests or mobile connect? What's the difference between request sent and request? This is the problem. And so the meta problem above that is like the organization to the left that you're seeing in the left rail here is these folders where, again, this one's especially big because each of our teammates goes in here and makes their own folder. But the idea is true that whether it's your own business or your client's business, they have all these different categories of things. You bet, Zoom in. There's all these different categories of things, and then like you open one up, and it nests into this other stuff. And sometimes you spend, for example, if you're writing a query and choosing the target data extension, you're navigating down this like nested folder structure, all these clicks just to find the table you want to target. All that's terrible. And so the mandate here is what we want is the first thing is a thought exercise of like, if you're in the privileged position of being able to start at least somewhat from scratch or be able to revise a little bit of what's existing, take everything that is being done in your Marketing Cloud and bucket it in up to 10. That's a specific number, not an arbitrary thing I made up, 10 categories of things. So the buckets, why 10? It's because we're about to delve into a numbering system. That is the deli counter number giver, which is to say the categories, you're going to start them each with going from 0 to 9. So in this case, this is a pretty big account. So the span of how many assets within each category here, I'm doing this in the thousands. So for example, the 2000 category, you can have up to 1,000 assets in there, and they're going to be numbered 2001, 2002, etc. If your account's much smaller, you can just do this in the hundreds, but it's the same idea. And so up to 10 categories because you have 0, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, up to 9,000. And those are going to be static. Those are your categories. So for example, this account, this is Fanatics. You all may or may not know this company. They make like, they sell sports gear, memorabilia, and stuff like that. The stuff they're doing in Marketing Cloud is they have these things called challenges, another thing called games. They have shipping notifications. They have shopping nudges. They talk about app updates. So those are just what we chose up front to be the categories. Further, there are these things system-wide, which I do this in every, because every Marketing Cloud account has things that are applied to the whole system, not a marketing or notification tactic. So for example, the push send log in this account isn't specific to a tactic. So it goes in the zeros. All accounts also need, in my opinion, a testing or a dev. And I'll bet your own Marketing Cloud accounts that you work in, you have a folder called dev or whatever. Here, it's 1,000 testing. And there are, all these different things we've done over time that go in here. And what's great about this is I happen to know, for example, that there's a particular asset I use all the time for not just this account, but I'm going to demonstrate this later when we get into Visual Studio Code and the little extension that we love in there. There's a thing I use in every account that is the generic query. And it's a query that's not for any particular tactic. The fields in the target data extension, I literally call them field 1, field 2, field 3, field 4, so that I can just really quickly write any query without needing to think about the target data extension and just run it. And I know that in this account, that's 1019. And so I don't have to search for some string of text. I just go in here, 1019, and there it is. And that applies to finding anything. And that becomes really nice. What's also really nice is this system of buckets. You're going to see it mirrored in all the studios, in Automation Studio, in activities. The queries are same thing. Journey Builder.
Joel, can you please
Folders.
zoom in a bit?
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm using a wide monitor because I'm gonna have to use the other half of it in a second. So yeah, so thanks for letting me know that that's it's small. On the left here, you can see the same thing. These folders for journeys follow the pattern. I'm not going to go through all of it. There's content builder is organized the same way. Automation's organized the same way. Okay, and so bringing this all together is the idea that, okay, I've got to create a new asset and I want to track what it is and its companion parts. The deli counter ticket giver, which is, again, it could be a few things, depending on what your business has for tools. My favored one for this, which I'll show, is Slack lists. That's going to sound strange, but I'll show that in a second. Let me just show the spreadsheet version of it. Here it is. Okay, this is a Google Sheet. And as you see running across the bottom, these are the categories. And this is for a totally different account, but this business, system-wide, newsletters, events, employee sends, donors, other. And the way this works is, okay, we have to do a thing. We have to do an employee send. This spreadsheet, which we're happy to share. In fact, if you just go to that blog that Amanda mentioned and is linked to, you can download one of these yourself. There's nothing fancy here. You can make this yourself as well. This is just a nice pre-done format where, okay, it's time to do a thing. Pre-numbered along the side, we have the first, I don't know, I think I've put the first 100 in here of potential assets. These are just ready to go. So, okay, 3001, this is going to be the, what are we in employee? So, March 2025 corporate update, whatever it is. And it's going to be, and these are little check boxes. I'll be writing a query. I'll need it to target a data extension and then email in a journey. And we're not using automation, but great. Now we know what this thing is. And this name, I'm going to literally on my keyboard, copy it. And I'm going to paste it when I hit new asset, each of these 4 things. And so then when you're in Marketing Cloud, you know instantly like how to find each of those 4 for whichever studio you're in. And then great, we've got notes here of like, we use this for X, XYZ. I'm not spelling correctly here. John approved it on 2/28. There is no 2/29. Okay, so and that's great. And now what you end up with before long is almost like a living memory and a reference so that other people can find your stuff, find out what it is, because this will be a shared document. Again, not every business is in Google Sheets. In fact, the one that we share from that blog is, I believe, an Excel file. It operates real similar. Let me show what I really love, though, is the Slack version of this. If anyone doesn't know what Slack lists is, Slack lists are phenomenal. It's a feature that they launched last year that is kind of like a Trello, if you've used that, or any number of these like organization tools. It's a listing software, and you can do the same kind of thing and do group by, just kind of like in Trello, you can have like columns like on a board. Same idea. This is just a list of things that is grouped by the column called categories. This is grouped by category. If you look at all items, you can see this is just everything, but I never use this. That first view is grouped by this category column, and these are the buckets. And so in this account, when I have to create a new testing, just go down here, add item. The next one will be 1052. Check these boxes that correspond, as you can see below here, to which asset type. And then you do some notes. But what's really good about doing this in Slack is that it's natively chat. So if you want to talk about this asset with your teammates, you go to add comment. I'm probably shouldn't actually comment to my client, but hey Ben, this is ready for review or whatever. So anyway, this is a little ancillary to what we're really talking about today, but wanted to show it because it ties into what we'll go to next.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it tie together. Let me pull back the screen share. Cool. So that was a lot. And I recognize that, like Joel said, you might not be able to come around a solution that even involves like an external sheet. And if that's the case, fine, try not to get overwhelmed. There's still like fundamental things you can do to get organized around a naming convention. As Joel mentioned, consistency, setting up categories, using dates is another good one that I like. I'm just going down these bullets here. Especially like your single use, like you're going to send this quick email and it's not going out again. Make sure you add a date to that. I like to actually prepend the date so that it sort of waterfalls down like a February 2025 nested folder. So it sort of just follows down. You can see all of your campaigns that have gone out right there in an organized fashion. But really, the heart of the naming convention, again, is picking a pattern. So whether you do like the Delhi calendar numbering system or just coming up with your own, stick with it. Don't end up with 3 different types of naming conventions throughout the account. You'll obviously end up with a bigger problem than you probably started with. All right, so all of this sort of ties into getting around like to the point where you can get to a workflow tool, right? So the foundation is making sure that you're organized, that you can find stuff, you're not wasting time there. But to further your time savings, we do recommend tools outside of Marketing Cloud all the time, especially for coding, which VS Code handles very well. You can see probably very poorly in this screenshot, but Joel will take over in a moment, that there is syntax highlighting, not unlike some of the add-ons that you can get for like a Sublime Text or any other text editor that handles code very well. But just know that that's available in VS Code too. This is local, so it's going to be a local download. There may be limitations there with whether or not you can download it. So that's understandable. But coming around your workflow and picking sort of a flow and again sticking with it will help you get organized and be able to run just much more quickly. I mentioned the highlighting. It's also got like a cool code completion, debugging, and even a Git integration. So it's a very, very robust solution to your workflow, right? So pretty powerful tool that we'll go ahead and dive into here in a moment. Sorry, I wanted to spice up the slides.
It is a good cat.
You'll notice the cats everywhere, but I like this. This one was NASA, so that was kind of cool.
Good stuff. I think that's my cue. Is that right, Amanda?
Yeah, it's your
Yeah.
cue.
Okay. Visual Studio Code came into at least my world. I was just a couple of years ago was sitting in Slack, and one of our teammates, Amanda, this was Katie Lewis, randomly. She was like, "Hey, I found this extension for VS Code that lets you, like you just said, Amanda, highlight AMP script syntax." And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know, AMP script, AMP script, whatever. That's great." And I got intrigued by it, and downloaded it. So, like Amanda said, it's Visual Studio Code is really powerful, pervasive thing that real hardcore coders use. Actually, there's even a more hardcore version, one that Microsoft sells, like an integrated developer. This isn't that. This is just free download. And it's kind of like a Sublime Text, but a little bit more with these things called extensions. Y'all may already all know all this, but suffice it to say, it's a powerful thing. So I downloaded it. And at the time, I was on little side note. I was on this client that asked us to build this pretty complicated lead warming system in their marketing cloud for like a business to business thing. And this was the one time at Slalom where like I have significantly was overworked, and it was my own fault because like I was the solution architect on it, and I came up with this system for like how to score their leads and automatically send them from one flow to another. Like I had like over engineered it. My fault. There was a week where I was like literally waking up at 6 a.m., starting work and not stopping till midnight. That has never happened at Slalom. Slalom's not like that, but it was my own doing. And the thing is, the reason it was going like that, this thing, this like engine that was powering all this lead warming stuff had so much SQL. I mean, by the time I was done with this client, I had probably just written tens of thousands of lines of SQL to get where they were going. It was nuts. And what drove me crazy was being in the little, automation studio, or technically the activities interface to do that SQL. It drove me crazy to do that little like the flow. It just took that much time. It was like a lot of clicks and like waiting for the next screen to load and editing in that tiny little window on the SQL editor. What I was doing in the end, or in the middle, I guess you'd say, like a lot of us probably do, is like copying a version of the query that was there, pasting it into Sublime Text, just because it was easier to see, like messing with it, copy it back, next screen, choose your target again, next screen, save, run. Anyway, so I had this Visual Studio Code thing, and I noticed that this AMP script highlighter that Katie had like offhandedly mentioned, that's 1% of what this tool does. So this tool is called, it's an extension, MCFS, Marketing Cloud File System. And what it really does, it was just made by some person. I don't know, it's free. It's just made by there's all these wizards out there building incredible stuff, largely using the REST APIs. What it is it's a way to like API. Thank you. Yes, this Eastern European person. I have no idea who that is, but I should send him a coffee because I use this every day. It's a system that lets you API into your marketing cloud with this interface that lets you edit a lot of your stuff. So it's like your content, your cloud pages, particularly your SQL queries, and also if you're pretty hardcore, your SSJS. What you do is, okay, so you download Visual Studio Code, you install pretty painlessly this extension, and that's what's being depicted on this here. That is how you connect Visual Studio Code to your Marketing Cloud. You go into Marketing Cloud and you enable that it takes 4 minutes or something. You create a new, I'll show it real quick. There's great instructions if you get the extension, which I encourage you to do. You basically create a connected app in the Marketing Cloud, set up, you get the credentials for that app. You give that app certain permissions, like be able to read and write data extensions and et cetera. Here, right. You download, install,
you skipped ahead.
And you just plug in the credentials, like was just on the screen just there, where you're telling the extension, okay, here's the business unit, here's the secret key, blah, blah. It's a few things, you hit connect. And I'm about to show what happens when you hit connect. So now you're connected to your Marketing Cloud instance through this like text editor, basically. And let me show the difference. Okay, so it's, I'm going to now go back to stealing from you, Amanda.
Yeah.
So to be clear, the primary use case is SQL, but I'm going to show some of the other stuff as well. This real quick is so you go to set up, you're in Platform Tools, Apps, Install Packages. You create just a new package, and what the instructions will tell you that in the extension for MCFS is these things here. Like, okay, set email to read, write, send, whatever. And you're copying this stuff though. So you're getting the authentication base URI, client ID, etc. And this is a query. Okay, so as I just painfully, grumbled about, you hit edit. To be clear about something, one thing this extension does not do is it doesn't let you like not go into Marketing Cloud at all. I don't mean to portray it that way. You can't create a new asset. You can't create a new query, create the target data extension. You must have done those things beforehand. Then you can edit them. But let's just say now okay, I want to edit that query. You're opening it up. You're in this thing that is like pretty easy to despise because it's like an ancient UI. It does do highlighting, I guess, which is nice, but it's tiny. And it's not a text editor. It's just this like modal. Next, this loads for a second. It's like, oh, your target, whatever. And this part kills me. You hit run once, and as I'm sure we all gripe, this screen is not live. No idea what is happening. You can, obviously we all know, like you can hit run once again, it's still running, or a little more helpfully, you put in an automation, you run the automation, you see the progress bar, but you have to refresh that screen as well. And then you have to navigate over to your target to see the new stuff versus here it is. Okay, enough burying the lead. Here's Visual Studio Code. So
can you zoom in just a bit, Joel?
Make all this a little bigger. Okay,
awesome.
So yeah, Visual Studio Code. Again, this is just a text editor at its core. So like you hit new and it's just stuff, whatever. When I hit new, this is not connected to Marketing Cloud at all. This is just a new Untitled one I opened here. But these other things, when I open on the right, the File Explorer on the right here, this is Marketing Cloud. I guess I should show here the Connection Manager. So this is MCFS. And you can see here, these are all the various clients over the years I've connected to, where you hit new connection. The instructions are here. You new connection, you paste in, again, the business unit, the URI, the client ID, client secret. And then when you hit connect, what happens is on the right, this shows up. So this is my client again, Fanatics. And then I have another connection for their other business unit, their sandbox. And when you open this up, this is like manna from heaven. So what you're seeing here is this organization where you can edit your cloud pages, your content. Slowly opening, not opening. Looks like my connection, hold on. Connection got sad. The extension is not opening. Let's go to my other one here. There we go. I don't know why that happened. Here's that file system though, that naming convention. So here are my buckets. So what this is doing is pulling in under the data extensions domain or whatever, these things system-wide, these are the folders. So it's just pulling in that folder structure using one of the APIs, I'm sure. And under that, there are a few different files, most of which are actually like back-end stuff that you can't edit, but rows is the data extension rows. I have unhelpfully pulled an empty one up. But really more helpfully now, okay, so that's data extensions. Scripts, if you have SSJS, you can edit and run them from here. Let's go to what I really want to show, which is queries. Again, the same folder system shows up. And you can open up one of these. So queries are red. And it's the query.sql that is what you want. The JSON is like the metadata of it, which you never actually need. So let me go to one that I've already intentionally opened here. So this is that same query I just had pulled up. And what we're seeing here is live. It's pulled in the text of that query. And now I can go in and edit it. When I do edits here, where, I don't know, I'm going to make up some garbage. It looks like I have a field called cohort equals test. And when I hit on my keyboard, but you won't see, Command S, I'm on a Mac, Command S for save. Looks like I have a bad thing in my query. But that's one thing right there. So I have tried to save a query with an error and it's popped up as it's sad.
I love that.
Which is, yeah, very useful right there. I think it might be sad because I didn't. Well, let's go right into one of the nice things about being in a text editor versus that Marketing Cloud UI. I want to say where raw results.cohort equals. I'm going to just start typing raw, and look, there it is. It auto completes. REST API failed. Well, I'm going to just quit that. See if the curse of the live demo.
Yep.
We're going to run it as is. So this is great. You can see there's this tiny little play button up here. This runs the query. And there's a thing I use actually much more often, which is the shortcuts in Visual Studio Code are great. They're a shortcut for everything. There's a name for this. I don't remember, but it's Mac Command-Shift-P brings up this shortcuts. The first one there, because I've used it most recently, is Connection Manager, but I want to just start typing, run a SQL query. And now you can see in the bottom right corner with the little progress bar, hallelujah, I see that it's running, which Marketing Cloud actually doesn't do for you. And that is some manna from heaven. And so as we'll see in a second, it'll also, unlike Marketing Cloud, tell me when it's done. So that's really nice. We'll do a little bit of, while that's running, content stuff. Okay, so this is a content block. Okay, this is a thing I'll show in a second here, the actual content that I'm looking at here, but this is the AMP script thing that started this all. So I'm going to start typing the AMP script if function. And my gosh, it knows what that is. So it even popped up with this helper text. IIF returns second parameter if the first integer. So this is explaining that. Like a more common one that we use all the time would be like lookup, explains how to use it, and it'll autocomplete. And so not going to write one here. But it really truly is useful if you're writing like a bunch of AMP script. It'll syntax highlight it for you because as you can see in the bottom right, the extension, I'm way down here now, brings in the AMP script syntax to highlight really nicely. And it looks like this did finish. Okay, so from here, this finished, and we can go to Marketing Cloud and see it. But we also have our data extensions. So these flow in. So when you open up a data extension, you're seeing the raw view of that data in the data extension. Cool for a couple reasons. A, it brings in 2,500 rows at a time. I think it's 2,500 because that's like the SOAP limit. Maybe it's rest. I actually don't remember. Doesn't matter. Much more than this happens to be only 44 in this query result, but versus the UI only ever shows you 200. You have to click through the next one. Here you can scan through a ton of rows, which is great. A neat little thing is that this view also shows you this obscure thing y'all may know of, you may not, the custom object key. This is a highly indexed hidden field, hidden in the UI in Marketing Cloud. So every row is incremented by one. And there are kind of edge casey, but real use cases for this, where if you want to confine your query to only search above a certain row, this is, again, extremely fast. It's like a fast index for searching. So you can use this value that you can't see anywhere else. More important, though, you've got your data here. There's another extension I really like for formatting these things, convert to a table. Now we're cooking with gas. And now this is like a really nice way to scroll through here and see stuff. And this is, again, a short and skinny table, but that gets pretty useful pretty quick. Another cool thing is this tiny filter icon right here. Filter this data extension. And let's say I'm looking at this and I only want, these are, whether you can tell or not, this is a log of pushes that were open, push notifications that were opened. I'm going to do the filter and I'm going to say where opened equals 2. It's filtering, voila. So this is like a much faster version of in the UI, filtering a data extension. Granted, that's a more powerful set of filters you can apply, but this is faster. You don't have to create a new asset. You don't have to create a new target filter data extension. So that's pretty great. Okay, I know we're bumping up on time. I'll accelerate a bit. So very fast query writing and editing. It will throw an error if your query doesn't pass. Just the same way when you're in the UI, you get that red bar at the top. There's a problem. Now, admittedly, unlike the UI, you won't see what the problem is in your syntax here. So sometimes you have to copy what you just tried to edit, paste it into the UI and to see that error. But again, working in a text editor, great. There's other wonderful little things like as a text editor, this has multi-cursor. What's that shortcut? I think it's Command Option down. Yeah, I don't know if you can see this, but my cursor is going down, which is great because if I want to add like a table alias to a bunch of these things that's all the same, for example, let's see, there's no alias on these. All 3 cursors at the same time, LP, MP dot, and they all are writing together. There's find and replace. There's any number of wonderful things. There's moving lines up and down. Everything that makes a text editor great, Visual Studio Code has it. Okay, let's do a quick thing on content, and then I think I'll land the plane and we'll move on with life. Okay, this is a web page. This is a stupid web page I just made. It is a cloud page. And the way this cloud page works is it's just a cloud page that brings in a content block by key. This is a code snippet that just says, hello world, welcome to this corner of the world. The content editor lets you, when you go up here to, here we are on the right. So content builder, again, this is your folder system. And here is this block. So content.amp, and this is this block. So again, that website, that really silly website is just showing for a very specific reason. This is a content block by key. And as we all know, those are live, meaning even though the page is published, it's pulling in the content as it exists at that time. So let's say, in a nod to you, Amanda, we found it important to edit this piece of content by uncommenting out this text here that brings in an important cat. I just hit save. This is as if I'm in Content Builder and I saved a content block. And now I refresh this page. And so that change is now live. So this is a super, yes, agreed. It's a super fast way to also edit your content and get where you're going. Just a couple of considerations now. If you were a keen observer, you might have noticed on this screen here, where we configured Visual Studio Code, this does have a high level of permissions. So to put that differently, when you're creating this new installed package, you're creating access through these, the secret key and the base URI. Now your Marketing Cloud file system has access to this. And so, and we've given it these specific, data access and content access and journey and automations. Be mindful of that with whatever organization you're associated with, if that's an issue or not. For example, we are, Amanda and I, we have clients. Sometimes it's okay to say like, hey, I'm going to API into your instance, and that is not going to be subject to like my user in the account anymore. Like that's its own thing. So keep that in mind. Do keep in mind, again, you can't create new assets with that thing. It's more about let's speed up the workflow of what I'm already doing to edit stuff. Okay, I'm all done. Thank you for listening to that whole thing. Happy to, I think, Amanda, we ready to take some questions, if any?
Yeah, I just had one more. Sorry, I'm trying to find the share again. Just to kind of catch us back up here. All right, so we went through the install. So final thing, Joel actually touched on a few of these throughout the demo, right? But there are some key considerations, right? We don't want to end up like the cat that tries to jump and get excited and then falls down. Um, the connected app does require a very high level of permissions, right? So you may get denied. Your IT department might say, no, you're not going to put something local on your machine that has access to Marketing Cloud. So make sure that you're going through any scans, any approval processes. Not all orgs will allow this, right? You also, as Joel alluded to, you can't create your SQL activity directly in Visual Studio. I worded that a bit funny for Marketing Cloud, right? So you do have to do a little bit of setup in Marketing Cloud, then come back to your Visual Studio. You also can't change target data extensions, right? So I'm thinking as you perhaps version out for development, you will need to kind of go through a flow in which you have a dev versus a prod. So you can't just change out your target data extension. I think that would kind of be a use case, right, for wanting to do so. So there are a few sort of limitations. Oh, I just clicked and then all my windows went everywhere. There are a few considerations. It may not fit every single use case that you do come up with, but I think it's a very powerful tool that you can layer onto your Marketing Cloud. Like we mentioned before, right? If you can't connect in, there are plenty of other sort of workflow tools that can help out. I think we've mentioned Sublime a few times, which is a very powerful text editor and has some add-ins to highlight especially AmpScript, right? Not all your text editors can do anything with AmpScript. It's proprietary language. So there are trying to think a few other text editors. Joel, can you think of any on the top of your head that play nice with Marketing Cloud?
I'm just familiar with Sublime, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like there's one more that does editing for AmpScript, but I mean it's pretty few and far between. So I do like the extra tools that you get with VS. That was pretty cool. But yeah, that's kind of the end of our slides. Definitely want to open up the floor. I know that the chat has I got DM'd a question, JB, about previous recordings of the boot camp. I believe you have a YouTube link for that.
I'm gonna share that, but before that, Amanda and Joel, this is extremely insightful session. Thanks for highlighting the MCFS and the that you shared.
Awesome.
That is really helpful. The better way to organize the assets in the Marketing Cloud. Thank you very much for highlighting these today. Everyone, please post the questions in the chat, and you also would be able to unmute and ask the question directly.
Yeah.
Can I while we're waiting for potential questions, if any, can I give a little bonus tidbit that I think people will like?
Sure.
This will just take a second. One of the, just in this vein of efficiency and workflows and stuff, one of the things that I personally just find real painful, especially when you're collaborating with like different teammates and stuff like that, is that data extensions, unlike say SQL activities, don't have a URL. So I can't say, hey, click here to view that data extension, and you can validate it or not. That actually is not true. Many of y'all may know this, many not, but I'm going to share it anyway. Turns out there is a secret place from which you can get a URL for your data extensions. This might look familiar. You might think we're in Contact Builder. Pull up its cousin right here. Like this is like, oh, look, it's a left rail with data extensions, and clearly here they are. But this not to be confused with the proper way to navigate here. As you can see, these two screens are a little different. What this is, I don't know why it exists or how I stumbled on it. Maybe y'all have as well. It's a slightly different URL where any data extension you would click from here, if you start at that one, which I'll share in a second, click from here, look at the URL bar now. That is a persisting link to this data extension. Unlike if you, of course, do the same thing from proper contact builder, this is just some generic link. If you start at this admin thing, every data extension you would go to in here, you just copy that thing and now you can share it. So again, I bookmark it or whatever so that I can always go back here. It's that. So I'll put it in the chat. All you have to do is just change the stack number for whatever stack you're in because it won't redirect. So if you're on stack 51, just type S51 here instead of 13. But otherwise, once you're here, again, you now have a shareable, and it even changes the URL if you want to be on the records pane versus the properties pane /properties/records. So give that a visit, and I hope that speeds y'all up as well. And I'll share that in one moment here.
All right, we did get a question in the chat. So can SSJS automation activity be able to edit and test run through in VS Code? So yeah, I think you alluded to script activities, right?
They're there. Yep, you can edit. I'm almost certain run them. Admittedly, I only do that pretty rarely, but let me just check real quick and pull it up. So scripts are here. Whoops, that popped open weird. Scripts. Yeah, I don't have any in this account. Connect to this. Scripts. This one should have some. Nope. Never mind.
Nope.
So I believe so. Yeah, the UI is very similar to queries where you can edit and run them.
Right. Not seeing anything else in the chat. Feel free to come off mute, like JB said. Got a few more minutes here.
For the recordings, I posted the links in the chat. And also, if someone is checking the video, they can go back to the YouTube channel at the MC Learning Camp and look at the playlist. So under the playlist section, we have different playlists created for the Automation Studio Fundamental series, the Deep Dive series, and the Hands-on series. Additionally, you will be able to see all the other series and their recordings as well.
Awesome.
As for the links and the details, Joel and Amanda, I'm going to link everything, add them to the description area so people will get back and check these as well.
Beautiful. And if anyone has questions about naming or VS Code or other tips and tricks in that vein, hit up Amanda and me. I'm sure our emails are somewhere available. Amanda.Turner@Slalom, Joel.Lapidus@Slalom. We're happy to nerd out on this stuff because, as you can tell, we like it.
Yeah, or find me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active there.
That's a wonderful session, and thanks for putting all the effort into this, creating this, Amanda and Joel. We very much appreciate your efforts on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you
And
for
thanks
having
again,
me.
everyone. Thanks everyone for joining us today. And we have the upcoming sessions, and other announcement is the Marketing Cloud on Core series is coming up starting March 11th. So that will cover the growth and the advanced topics. So make sure that you join the group, get all the automated notifications. Thanks again and have a good one. Thanks, Amanda.
Everyone.
Thanks,
Good weekend.
Thank you.